For more than 10 years, Japan was Apple's strongest market. iPhone share here was so high that even Americans were surprised. Walk into any train or cafe and you will see the same thing, iPhone in every hand. But something is shifting. In recent surveys, Android has overtaken iPhone as the primary smartphone OS in Japan. Not by a huge margin, but enough to make everyone ask the same question. If Japan loved the iPhone so much, why are we suddenly seeing fewer of them? To answer that, you have to understand how iPhone took over Japan, what made it a cultural default, and why those same strengths are now becoming weaknesses. Japan was once the land of Apple dominance. For most of the past decade, iPhone held well over half the market. Apple drove almost all smartphone growth here, but the newest numbers show a different picture. Android sits slightly ahead of iPhone as the main device people use. Other datasets still show iOS leading when measuring web traffic, but the bigger pattern is undeniable. The gap is closing. If you are building for Japan, this matters. The automatic iOS first assumption no longer fits reality. A market this stable does not shift without real pressure behind it, and that pressure is economic. But before we get into what is changing, you need to understand how iPhone won Japan in the first place. iPhone did not win Japan by accident, it won through strategy. Before the iPhone even launched, SoftBank's CEO pitched Steve Jobs on the idea of bringing the device to Japan. When Jobs agreed, SoftBank bought Vodafone Japan and became the exclusive distributor. This mattered because Japanese users were used to heavy carrier subsidies. SoftBank used those subsidies to make a premium iPhone feel cheap. Monthly payments hit the real cost, so people upgraded without thinking about price. At the same time, Japanese phone makers were struggling with software. Their hardware was excellent, but their operating systems lagged. That opened the door for Apple. And because other global brands faced cultural and political challenges in Japan, iPhone moved into the empty space. It was not just better, it was easier, safer, and more compatible with how people already lived. But the system that made iPhone feel affordable back then is the same system making it feel expensive now. So why did Japanese consumers stay loyal for so long? iPhone fit Japanese life perfectly. It became a fashion item. The accessories, the cases, the personalization, the detail and design matched the Japanese expectation of craft. The user experience felt clean and reliable. Brand loyalty grew incredibly strong. People invested in the ecosystem and stayed there. And when Apple added Felica support for Suica and cashless payments, the iPhone became part of daily infrastructure. Japanese users could tap into trains, buses, and stores with one device. For years, choosing iPhone was not even a choice. It was the obvious default. So what broke the spell? Here is the turning point. 4 forces are reshaping the market. 1. The yen is collapsing against the dollar. iPhones are priced in dollars, so every year the price in yen climbs higher. Today, many flagship iPhones cross the 200,000 yen mark. That number hits people hard. It does not matter how good the phone is. Once the price crosses a psychological line, loyalty gets tested. 2. User sentiment is shifting. Surveys show more than 40% of iPhone users would consider switching if prices rise further. Their comments say everything. The phone keeps getting more expensive, but the experience does not feel dramatically different. People want to save money. 3. Japanese consumers prefer compact, practical phones, and the iPhone SE proves it. The most used iPhone in Japan is not the latest model. It is the iPhone SE series. Compact, affordable, home button, high-cost performance. Japanese users want something that feels just right, not oversized and overpriced. This is where Android sees opportunity. Mid-range Android phones in the 50,000 to 100,000 yen range are exploding in popularity. Pixel, Xiaomi, and other brands now deliver more value at a price people feel comfortable with. If you are building products for Japan, the rules have changed. Do not assume iOS first anymore. With Android at parity, choosing one platform can eliminate half your potential users. Younger users especially are drifting toward Android because of price. Payments must be platform neutral. Apple Pay is important. Google Pay is rising. QR payments like PayPay and Line Pay dominate across both. If your checkout flow relies on one operating system, you will lose customers instantly. Pricing strategy also matters. Japan is now far more price conscious than before. Premium products still work, but only when the value is obvious and direct. Clear cost performance wins. This is not about lowering quality. Japan still expects high standards. It is about matching the reality of what people feel is worth paying for. That sounds simple enough, but what does it look like in practice? Here is what you should actually do. Research your exact segment. Platform preference changes by age, income, and industry, So do not rely on general market data. Build cross-platform from the start. If budget forces you into one platform first, base the choice entirely on who your primary users are, not outdated assumptions. Use payment systems that cover the whole market: Apple Pay, Google Pay, QR codes, and major cards like JCB. Create pricing that matches the current mood. Tiered plans, freemium models, or packages that highlight convenience and value. And test everything on real devices. Android behavior varies by model, and iOS has its own quirks. Smooth onboarding across both platforms is essential. The iPhone once dominated Japan because it felt premium, accessible, stylish, and deeply integrated into daily life. But the weakening yen and rising prices have pushed many users to question whether that premium is still worth it. The success of the iPhone SE makes Japan's priorities obvious: comfort, size, cost performance, and practicality. Android brands now offer exactly that, and Japanese consumers are moving toward what feels balanced, not what feels luxurious. If you are launching in Japan, the message is simple: build for both platforms, design for value, remove friction, and understand that Japan is not abandoning quality, it is redefining it.